Podcast City Network. And we are back here on Final Score on Podcast City Network. Go to podcastcity.net/Final Score and check out all of our latest episodes. And don't forget, you can also check us out on social media on Facebook at /PCN Final Score, on Twitter at PCN Final Score. And of course, you can find us on our insane amount of platforms now these days. Go on to Podbean to download the latest episodes of Final Score by going to pcnfinalscore.podbean.com and go ahead and give us a subscription there. That way you can go ahead and get notified on all the latest postings of all of our content and episodes. And you can also go on over to Google Play Music, Spotify, and iTunes and search keyword Final Score. You definitely pull us up there. Give us a subscription and definitely keep up to date on all the latest that we are putting out. And we're sitting here, and I know we have, we're going to start talking about NHL playoffs, but we're sitting here looking at the very end of the Oklahoma City Portland game, where Portland has now pulled it off 104-99 to take game one of the Western First Round series between the two of those teams. And yeah, that definitely was a big game. Great win by Portland. Members of OKC are already leaving the floor immediately. I don't think they're too happy about this loss.
Well, I mean, that's what you kind of expect if you're Portland, is your first home game of the playoffs. You got to protect home court. And that's one of the big old adages of playoff sports, is it's not really much of a series until a team wins on the road.
Yes.
So having them win on their home court is kind of par for the course.
Yes.
And now if Oklahoma City comes out and wins on the road in game two, now you got yourself a series.
Oh, absolutely. But speaking of series and awesome, fun playoffs, we're going to switch gears and look at our hockey playoffs. And I'm definitely going to have to take one right on the chin. And I'll take it right out the gate.
You're taking a Mike Tyson punch.
I am taking a Mike Tyson punch. If you've ever seen The Hangover, that's me. So
taking a right hook
right to the face, like I just done stole your tiger. So at the end of the day, though, Tampa Bay Lightning versus Columbus Blue Jackets. I made the prediction last week that the Tampa Bay Lightning would not only sweep the first series, but would sweep the second series as well. Well, I am now eating my words, as the Tampa Bay Lightning have dropped not one, but two straight games to the Columbus Blue Jackets to fall behind 0-2 in this series to wild card number 2, the Columbus Blue Jackets. And I am just shocked. This high-scoring, best team of all time has completely let me down for all the claims I made last week and lost game one 4-3 in a close one, but then got practically blown out game two 5-1 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. What is happening to the Tampa Bay Lightning?
I also want to point out, too, to our listeners that not only did you predict they would sweep the first two rounds, you didn't have them losing a single game until the finals against Calgary.
Yes.
So, yeah, you took a big L on that one.
I took the biggest L on that one.
But I will also throw myself under the bus here, too, because I did also predict that Tampa Bay would sweep this series 4-0. Yeah, definitely not the case. One of the big reasons why is Nikita Kucherov, who had led the league with 128 points. Silent. 0 in the first two games of this series.
Yeah, he has not shown up at all in the playoffs. And sometimes we see this. We see guys who are just amazing scorers in any brand of sport and come out in the playoffs and it's a goose egg.
Yeah, that always happens. But, I mean, that just goes to show you that you have to play these games throughout the playoffs. It's a clean slate once you get in.
That's true. Just like you mentioned earlier, all these records and all that, all those stats don't matter once you get into playoffs. And an interesting thing about you bringing up Nikita Kucherov is that he is suspended for Game 3 following a controversial hit at the end of Game 2. So, man,
dangerous.
Lightning are even hurting even more now.
Yeah, this was a dangerous hit. This kind of so he's never had any history of dirty play.
No, he hasn't.
But they were just frustrated after basically getting their asses kicked 5-1 in this game and going down 0-2 when they had all these high expectations. Basically, it was a nasty looking boarding check, and he had to sit in front of the Department of Safety on Saturday afternoon. They suspended him for 1 game, so he's going to be out for game 3. That's a big loss for Tampa, who's trying to dig out of an 0-2 hole. And now they're going on the road into Columbus. Which, I mean, the fact that you lose both of your playoff home games in the first round is a big deal. But now you got to go on the road and win 2 more just to try to make the series even.
Oh, I know, and that's insane. And they definitely have all the cards stacked against them. So if any of my predictions are going to be right, they need to start getting this ship righted and start winning some of these games.
Yeah, so going back to last year in the Eastern Conference Final when they led the series 3-2 but lost to the Capitals ultimately, they have lost their last 4 playoff games. So they're not playing well when it comes to the postseason. But I mean, I think they still have enough firepower. They should win, I think, a close game tonight. It might be like a 4-3 like game 1 or a 3-2 or something like that. But they need to pick it up. They really need to pick it up.
Yeah, because they are hurting something bad right now. And if they don't get it righted, they're going to be looking down the barrel of probably one of the greatest upsets in a series to date, given the Tampa Bay Lightning, like we said last week, tied the wins record for a regular season, had blown everybody away with the amount of scoring, all the different stats, all the awesome accolades, and now you're getting beat by not even the first wild card, the second wild card team.
The last team to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and they're embarrassing you right now. That's really what they're doing. They're embarrassing the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, and I mean, we're just kind of looking up and down the all the stats from their games, and it is just they're just simply getting outplayed right now. That's really all it boils down to. You can look at all the stats you want. You're getting your ass handed to you by an inferior team. You need to wake up.
Yeah,
you just need to wake up.
Absolutely. And if they don't get it going, they're going to be going home a lot earlier than everybody thought. But looking down the rest of this list, we also have the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs been playing real hard against each other. Don't really know which one's really going to take this. The series is currently tied 1-1. Toronto took game 1 4-1, and then Boston took game 2 4-1. So it feels like we kind of have a night and day look right now to both of these teams. Game 3 will be on Monday in Toronto, but it's definitely going to be interesting to see which team shows up for both teams in game 3.
I think each team steals another one on the road, so I think it'll be 2-2. But once you get to game 5 in Boston, and I think Boston, that's where they win a game 5. I think it goes to 7 games, and Boston has to win it at home in game 7.
Absolutely, and Boston, once they get home, should be able to have some more advantage, but it really just depends on which Toronto team shows up, because it seems like Toronto lately, anytime they touch playoffs, you never really know where you're going to get with them. So definitely going to be an interesting and exciting series. Just got to see how this one will play out.
Yeah, Tuukka Rask he did really well in game 2, stopped 30 shots, had basically a 97% save percentage. So that's really where a lot of this is going to come into play. I mean, these two teams. I forget the guy that. Nazem Kadri went to the locker room after he got a game misconduct for cross-checking a guy in the face into the boards. But he's had a bit of a history with these two teams. As far as dirty play is concerned. So, right. I mean, if Boston comes out and plays the way that they like to play their game, if they play it their way, Tuukka Rask plays the way that we all expect him to play, they should take the series, but it's going to be a tough series for them to win.
Definitely is going to be a tough series no matter how you look at it, but we'll definitely see how that one shakes out. But looking at another series with our defending Stanley Cup champion Washington Capitals taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. The Capitals already have a 2-0 lead in this series. Washington took game 1 4-2 and then needed overtime to put away the Hurricanes 4-3 in game 2. But game 3 will be on Monday in Carolina. Definitely going to be interesting to see which Carolina team will show up, if they're just going to get shellacked again like game 1, or if they really make it interesting like they did in game 2. Time will tell once we hit Monday.
It's not necessarily got shellacked in game 1. I mean, the score 4-2, 2 goals isn't really that big of a differential.
No,
but I mean, they're playing hard. They're keeping the game decently within respectable reason. But I think Carolina wins one of the 2 games at home, and then they basically lose. They're going to probably lose in 5. But but basically, you're looking at it's Washington's series to lose at this point. Being up 2-0, you won the 2 games you were supposed to at home. Let's see if Carolina can hold their end of the series and win their 2 games at home. But I think they're going to win one of those 2, and they're going to go down 3-1 going into game 5 in Washington.
Well, I think with how the Hurricanes played in game 2, if they can bring that type of energy and play to the rest of this series, it's really going to give them a shot at really taking down our defending Stanley Cup champions. However, I feel like the Capitals are just way too loaded to let something like that happen. So I agree with you. I think the Hurricanes will take one of the 2 games that will be in Carolina and will be down 3-1 going back to Washington.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they win game 3, being their first home game. They're going to be energized to play in front of their home crowd. So I wouldn't be surprised if game 3 goes to Carolina, and then Washington wins 2 more and take them out of the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. But looking down further down this list, the other Eastern Conference game that we actually got to enjoy a little bit earlier when we were getting ready for our show today was the New York Islanders taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Islanders ended up taking game 3 to now have a commanding 3-0 lead. They took game 1 in overtime 4-3, took game 2 3-1, took game 3 4-1. Is Pittsburgh already giving up?
Well, I'm shocked. I mean, we were talking about this series. You had Pittsburgh to win in, I think it was 7 games.
Yes, in 7 games.
I had Islanders winning in 7 games. We figured this series was going to be a close series. Game 1 showed that.
Yeah.
We figured there were others. I figured Pittsburgh would come out inspired to win at home. They just got shellacked at home.
Yeah, they really did. And it looked bad. We were looking late in the game when the Islanders scored their 4th goal in this game 3. It was on an empty net, and they shot that puck from halfway across the ice, and it just happened to go in.
And then they almost gave up another one when they tried to pull their goalie again.
Yeah, they were getting ready to pull the goalie again, and they got a shot on goal somehow, and he barely saved the puck. So I'm really surprised, especially with a Sidney Crosby-led team, that this is going to be how the Penguins might go out. The Penguins are looking down the barrel of possibly being swept by the New York Islanders.
Well, give credit to them. Their goalie, Lehner, has been playing lights out.
Oh, yeah.
He had 25 saves.
Yeah,
gave
26 shots.
Yeah, gave up the 1 goal in game 3. So he's been playing lights out, and that's what it's all about. I was telling you about this when we were watching the game. That's what playoff hockey's all about, is you got to get hot. Your goalie's got to get hot at the right time to give yourself a chance to advance into the playoffs, and the Islanders are doing it. I mean, they've got a good game plan, and it just goes to show in this series.
Absolutely, and the Islanders have been bringing it as much as they can, because Pittsburgh has not always been they're not a slouch franchise. They've been able to have a lot of success recently. So to really see the Islanders come out and be up not 1, not 2, but 3 games to none on the Penguins is unprecedented. But we'll definitely see how this shakes out once we hit game 4 Tuesday, which will be again in Pittsburgh. And I know Pens fans are praying that this doesn't end on their own ice, but we'll definitely see what happens with this one, because this has definitely been a shocker. But
yeah, I think Pittsburgh wins game 4, goes back to the Islanders in game 5, and I think they win it. Islanders win it at home in game 5.
I'm honestly going to have to agree. I think Pittsburgh will play inspired so they don't drop it all the way around on Tuesday, and that they'll go back to New York and then lose it all in game 5. But switching gears over to the Western Conference, we have the Calgary Flames versus the Colorado Avalanche. The series is currently tied 1-1. Calgary took the first game 4-0 in very dominant fashion, but game 2, Colorado squeaked one out 3-2 in overtime. So what kind of series are we going to have going forward with this one?
This game was, I was watching this game late last night. This game was really, really, really hotly contested all the way throughout. The big thing about Calgary is they have a really young winger. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I'm trying to look for it right now, but it's Gaudreau, Johnny Gaudreau. Mm-hmm. I'm probably butchering that name, so I apologize. But so he's one of those like finesse players, likes to be able to have freedom to move the puck around the ice, and he doesn't like physical play.
Right.
That is one thing Colorado can do in this series. They can do it well, is they can play physical. And it kind of goes to show is they started getting under his skin a little bit, and they kept it a close game. They actually scored to tie the game late in the third period.
Oh yeah, very late.
At the 17-minute mark. So I mean, they definitely had to have a kind of a Herculean effort to even get to overtime, and then got a pretty goal with 8 minutes in to take the win. And I think Calgary fans were kind of shocked, to be honest with you. I mean, for as high powered of a team as this is, and all the expectations that are on this team, to lose a game at home is really a letdown.
Well, I mean, Calgary is no Tampa Bay, but seeing what's happening with Tampa Bay, I guess that kind of makes Calgary the best team right now. But Calgary definitely came inspired to play, but I don't think expected what Colorado was able to bring to the table. And Calgary literally was just trying to do everything they could to try and stay in this game, which obviously ended up not being enough since they went down. But still, it's great to see how it all went down. Colorado's goalie, though, played out of his mind. He had 35 saves on 37 attempts, only allowed the 2 goals, which is great play by a goalie. And even when you look on the other side for Calgary, their goalie, 36 saves on 39 attempts. Obviously, you don't want to let up 3 goals, and obviously one was the overtime goal that ended up being the deciding factor. But still, great goalie play all the way around. And I don't know. I think it's really going to come down to goalie play the rest of the series. Who can really stop these shots? Because as you can see, having to have 37, 39 shots on goal, these teams are taking shots, and they're taking them often. So I think it's really going to come down to goalie play to decide who's going to end up winning this series.
Yeah, I think Calgary's got a little bit more firepower, though, so they'll definitely be able to score those goals. Colorado, they're going to have to grind it out to be able to keep up.
Oh, yeah.
And they might, based on these first 2 games, it's kind of tough and to kind of predict how this is going to go. But I think Calgary comes out and wins. They steal another game. This might be a 2-2 series going back to Game 5 in Calgary.
It definitely could, but even if it ends up being a 2-2, I think that would be a good scenario for Calgary, just because Calgary, I think, will be able to capitalize, especially going home, and be able to put the series away to move on to the next round. But before we can do that, we definitely got to look at some of these other games, including the San Jose Sharks and the Vegas Golden Knights, who we predicted this was going to be probably one of the most exciting series. Is currently tied 1-1. San Jose took game 1 5-2. Vegas took game 2 5-3. And we're awaiting game 3, which will be tonight in Las Vegas. Man, this has been a pretty interesting series so far.
Yeah, as I predicted, it was going to be probably the most exciting playoff series that you're going to see in the first round. And just, again, as expected, a lot of goals are going to be scored in this matchup. So if you like goal scoring, you want to be watching this series. Marc-Andre Fleury had 34 saves in their last win. He picked up his 76th career playoff win. It's the most of any active goaltender. So he's got a lot of playoff experience, and I think that's going to be a big key for Vegas to potentially take this series. But I'm really excited to see the game tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, going into this game tonight, there's definitely going to be a little bit of added firepower for Vegas, because I don't know if you saw this one, but the Vegas Golden Knights signed Continental Hockey League leading scorer Nikita Gusev to a 1-year entry-level contract on Sunday. And the Moscow native, he scored a league high 82 points for his SKA St. Petersburg this season, and which was eliminated in the conference finals, though, of the Gagarin Cup playoffs last week. But it made him available to be able to come over and sign a contract and be able to play in these playoffs starting now. And let's not to mention, this guy was the KHL's MVP in 2018.
That's huge. I mean, that's a huge pickup. I actually did not know that, but that's awesome for Vegas. They have a lot of really good players in KHL. I know Pavel Datsyuk plays over there right now, ex Red Wing. A lot of guys that are from Russia end up playing back over there or start there, come over to the NHL. But yeah, that's a big pickup for them. If he's their league MVP this past year, it's gonna be a big pickup for them.
Yeah, definitely a big pickup, and he's only 26 years old, so he is definitely young, has the energy, and definitely could be what they need to help them get over the top. And like I said, he's eligible to play right now. So I would expect to see him at some point in tonight's game. And just an interesting side note, Vegas acquired Gooseheads rights from the Tampa Bay Lightning during the 2017 expansion draft. So I bet you Tampa might be kicking themselves a little bit on that one.
Not much you can do on an expansion draft, though.
No, I mean, not much you can do with that.
You can only protect so many players. And even though he probably was going to be a guy that would come over the next year, for Tampa, but yeah, you can't protect everybody in those kinds of drafts.
No, you definitely can, but I know Vegas is definitely going to try and utilize that to the best of their ability going forward to try and literally vanquish San Jose Sharks and make it to the next round of playoffs. But we also have to take a look at the Nashville Predators taking on the wild card Dallas Stars. Got a little southern there in that twang. Where the series is currently tied 1-1. Dallas took game 1 3-2. Nashville took game 2 2-1 in overtime. So this one definitely will figure to be an exciting series going forward.
Yeah, this is another great series. Looking down we keep saying that this is a great series, that's a great series. I love playoff hockey, and it is all the matchups are great television. There's only a couple that you're expecting to be, maybe a little lopsided, like say a Tampa should be, but just goes to show you got to go ahead and play the games. But
that's why they play them.
Yeah, this is another big matchup, a pivotal game 3 because now Nashville lost their home ice advantage, losing the first game of that series to Dallas. So now they're going to go back to Dallas for game 3, and that's going to be they're going to have a fired up crowd. They've always had a good fan base there, and this will be a great game 3. We'll see what happens out of here.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens, especially seeing how the last game ended in overtime with Nashville pulling it off. I'm sure that Nashville crowd is going to be really excited and up for this game to try and cheer their Predators on to another win at home. But keep on going down the list. We have the Winnipeg Jets taking on the St. Louis Blues. The Blues have a 2-0 series lead in this game, in this series, winning games 1 2-1, winning game 2 4-3. So St. Louis definitely has come ready to play, and they'll take on Winnipeg in St. Louis tonight for game 3.
I was shocked.
I'm shocked as
I was completely shocked because I watched a little bit of game 1, didn't have a chance to watch game 2, but Winnipeg has positioned themselves to be winning right now the last few years, and they've been having a lot of high expectations the last few years. But, going down 0-2 to one of the other wild card teams I'm sorry, not a wild card team. They were third in the Central Division.
Yes. St. Louis was third.
Yeah, I want to correct myself there. But going down 0-2 in a series that they probably were expecting to be up 2-0 at this point, it's definitely an eye-opener for the Winnipeg fan base and for their locker room. I
really feel like going into this, maybe Winnipeg was kind of underestimating what St. Louis brought to the table, because St. Louis really wasn't that bad of a team. They just had a lot of crazy things happen throughout their season, but still were able to get to a 45-win season, still were able to achieve 99 points to make playoffs. So you can never discount a team like that. So I think Winnipeg kind of came out, got busted in the chops, and now kind of realized, man, we have a series on our hands. And they're definitely going to find out more about that come to tonight when they have to travel on the road now to St. Louis. Winnipeg, I'm sure, did not expect to drop both games at home, and now they got to play catch up. So, do they get eliminated in St. Louis, or does Winnipeg come back to make this a series?
Winnipeg makes this a series. They're too good not to make this a 6 or 7 game series, or at least get back into it. I wouldn't be surprised if they take one or both of these games in St. Louis. But it's, I mean, if they have to, this is a must-win situation for them. If they don't, obviously they're going to be down either 3-1 or they, like you said, they might get swept and go home early. So it's kind of tough because for that fan base, they've been wanting to get a team back there for so long. They finally did, and they are just all in on the Jets. They need to respond. It'd be great for their fan base for them to get some distance into the playoffs, but they need to fight. They need to fight every minute of every game to get back into this series if they want to have any chance whatsoever.
I absolutely have to agree all the way through on this one. But the biggest thing that Winnipeg is going to need to be able to stop or at least slow down this attack of the St. Louis Blues is being able to stop Oscar, and I know I'm going to butcher this, Oscar Sundqvist of Sweden. I know. I'm waiting to hear it on Twitter. They're going to need to be able to stop Oscar to make sure that he doesn't keep going off. He had 2 goals in this last game and has been pretty lights out for most of his career, and he plays great in playoffs. So it's just you can't let guys like this keep scoring on you. And if they want to be able to have that, they need to have that goalie play a little bit better because he's not playing all that good. You allowed 4 goals in this past game. 4 goals.
Yeah, you're not going to win many playoff games that way.
No, usually that ends up grounds for you being pulled the next game and being replaced by another goalie. So definitely going to be interested to see how this one plays out tonight. But we'll definitely see how it works out when we go through the rest of these NHL playoffs, and definitely make sure that you check back with us going forward next week. We'll definitely have a lot more on these NHL playoffs. Some of them might already be at their conclusion, so we'll definitely be able to update you on that. So definitely make sure you check back next week when we bring you episode 11 of Final Score. But for right now, we got to switch gears heavily. Bring this over. There we go. Now we're going to switch over to NFL news and talk just a few little things. NFL is still in its little lull period, but we had a lot of exciting things happen this week, mainly around one player that we'll get to in a little bit. But first things first, let's look at some contract extensions that came through this week. First one right off the bat that I think is really going to help this team is for the Vikings, having Adam Thielen agree to a 40-year, $64 million extension and tying up one of your best receivers to make sure that he's going to be with the Vikings for the long haul.
Yeah, this is a great extension. He already had that big contract from a couple of years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That he signed. So this is just kind of par for the course. Of course, you're going to sign your best receiver. They still got Stephon Diggs as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you've got a pretty good offense if you can keep Dalvin Cook healthy.
And don't forget Treadwell.
And Laquan Treadwell. They still got some improvement expected out of him. But, I mean, Kirk Cousins has all the tools that he needs. Cook, Treadwell, Thielen, Diggs. You still got that defense. You got Anthony Barr that was going to go to the Jets and came back.
Yeah, got them cold feet.
Yeah, cold feet. But as expected, this was probably, you were expecting this was going to happen out of the Vikings and Thielen.
Oh, definitely, because you definitely want to tie up one of your best receivers and not have him go anywhere else, and most especially a division rival of any kind, especially given their division rivals' needs at wide receiver. So,
Detroit Lions?
Detroit Lions? What?
Yeah. Huh? I mean, we would love to have Adam Thielen.
I'm sure you would. I'm sure Green Bay would as well. They need a wide receiver at this point.
They need a lot.
Well, they need a lot of things, including better Bleacher Report stories about them. But that's for another time. Another team that was able to get a nice extension going was the New York Giants. Were able to lock up Sterling Shepard to a 4-year deal worth $41 million as part of his extension, trying to give some kind of weaponry to Eli Manning outside of Saquon Barkley.
I'm telling you, man, I talked about this, I think it was 2 weeks ago when we posed the question, what the hell are the Giants doing? I'm telling you, they think they have a plan. And Sterling Shepard is obviously part of that because this makes sense. He's your top receiver now, and this is his wide receiver group to lead. So his career stats ain't great, but I mean, this is the guy you want to build. You're going to build your receiving core around. I wouldn't be surprised and we're going to talk about this next week on our draft show. Giants take no offensive players in the first round.
If they don't take any offensive players, if you are a New York Giants fan, take all of the gear you have, put it into a barrel, and light it on fire, because that's what the Giants are doing with their season.
Little sneak peek, they're taking 2 defensive players in their first 2 picks.
If they take 2 defensive players, I think the whole of New York will explode with anger.
If they take a quarterback, it'll be the second pick of the first round, and even then it's not going to be who people expect.
No, and if that happens, again, take all of your gear and burn it to the ground.
I'm not going to hate as much as I was a few episodes ago. We were talking about it, and I'm not going to completely hate because I think they do have a plan. It seems weird to all of us, but they got a plan. At least I think they do.
Oh, well,
Gettleman's not the greatest judge, I think, of talent, so this is going to be interesting.
No, he's not the brightest crayon when it comes to that. But at the end of the day, what I look at is that thinking you have a plan and having a plan are 2 completely different things. So, I can look at a dumpster fire and say, oh, that's a nice bed of roses. Does not make it a bed of roses. It makes it a dumpster fire that's going to keep on burning until something's done about it.
What are you talking about the Jets like that for?
I feel like the Jets are the better New York team right now.
That's true. I'm sorry. That was a couple years ago.
Sorry,
I think
Team Gangrene or whatever they're calling themselves now.
Right now, the Dolphins. That's who it is.
Oh, the Dolphins.
They're
there
the new
it is.
dumpster fire in
That's
the NFL.
right. And we're going to be the first team probably to openly tanking for Tua. Hashtag going to be popular come next year. All right.
But are you just trying to make that popular?
I am trying to make it popular because I think it's going to happen. Someone is going to hashtag
just for the love
tank
of God,
for Tua.
stop.
Whatever. This goes against everything Nick Saban believes anyways, if you saw that report. But that's for another time. At the end of the day, though, we did have a couple signings. The Carolina Panthers went out and got themselves yet another wide receiver by locking up Chris Hogan on a 1-year deal. Details have not been released yet. But does this make sense for the Carolina Panthers?
For the Panthers, yes.
I mean, do they think they have a plan too?
I have no idea. Well, that was where Gettleman used to be the GM. So
Just saying.
Just saying. There's not a whole lot of activity this week in the NFL. There's a lot of like minor signings, but these are two highlighted ones we wanted to cover. Chris Hogan, this makes no sense.
Yeah, especially
From
after
him, it makes no sense.
No, it really doesn't. Chris Hogan's a small guy. He's not really going to be featured as
He's not small.
Well,
he's 6'2".
Okay, well, let's look at the other wide receivers in the league and see how those all stack up.
He's no Edelman. Edelman's small.
Okay, I'll give you that one.
Right.
But either way, you're able to take those guys in a Bill Belichick-led offense with Tom Brady slinging the ball and make magic happen. But guess what? I can slot in the bag boy from the Publix up the street at wide receiver, and I bet you he's going to have a 1,200-yard, 10-touchdown season with Tom Brady slinging him that ball in a Bill Belichick offense.
Hey, if you pay me a minimum NFL deal, I will slot up and play receiver. I won't be any good.
I'll take half that, and guess what? I'm going to do button hooks all day. And I'll catch every ball you throw at me. I'll take every hit, too, but I'll get paid for it.
But yeah, this doesn't make sense to my opinion, for Chris Hogan. You're going into a crowded receiver room in Carolina, but there's no like definitive number one, so I guess maybe that's the draw. But you're basically leaving New England to go to Carolina to, in my opinion, an inferior quarterback in Cam Newton.
Yes.
I mean, he's not as consistent as Brady. I don't know. Maybe he knows something we don't.
Well, nobody's Tom Brady. Let's just put it out there. Not everybody can take all 12 of the TV. So at the end of the day, Cam Newton is not going to be the Tom Brady. No quarterback is going to be Tom Brady. Closest you're going to get to.
The whole NFL has been taking all 12 of the TV for the last 20 years.
Exactly. Look at the infinity gauntlet that Tom Brady has sitting in his office right now. It isn't there for no reason. So at the end of the day, though, Chris Hogan going to the Panthers does not make sense. He might be a good slot guy, but really looking at everything that they have, Chris Hogan, I think, is going to end up being the odd guy out, really. I think Rashad Ross could be a better wide receiver in this offense and work better with Cam Newton than Chris Hogan will, honestly.
Yeah.
Having the speed, Rashad Ross has more speed than Chris Hogan. So
yeah, but again, we talked about this before the show. That doesn't automatically give you anything.
No, I don't think it does, but I think it's going to put them in a better position to make plays than they will with Chris Hogan. But again, it's also why they go out and practice and also go out and play the game. So could be wrong, but one thing we're not wrong about is the fact that the New York Jets signed running back Ty Montgomery to a 1-year, and I can't believe this ends in a K and not an M, $895,000 with a $90,000 guarantee, and will figure to basically slot in as the backup to Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, this kind of makes sense for him that he would go to another spot where he doesn't have to be a number one guy. I mean, he's a converted receiver to running back. It makes sense that he's going to go somewhere where they're going to use him in different areas. I wouldn't be surprised if they put him in the slot and run him on the field with Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, absolutely.
And then use him in spelling Bell. But yeah, I think he's going to be another tool for Sam Darnold to use to hopefully have a much more improved offense this year.
Well, you think about it, if they end up putting Ty Montgomery in the slot, you got Le'Veon Bell in the back. I can see a lot of triple option possibilities out of this, a lot of end around possibilities, a lot of play action end around possibilities, a lot that they can do with this with having a guy like Ty Montgomery in their offense with a guy also like Le'Veon Bell. So this really, I think, will help not only Le'Veon Bell, but Ty Montgomery, because he's going to be able to be featured in a way that I don't think he really has been able to until this point.
Yeah, well, and part of the reason why you're talking about like end arounds, all kind of stuff, he started as a receiver, but converted to running back because, he's fast, but he's not that big.
Funny.
Weird. It's like the argument against what you just said a few minutes ago about somebody being fast. Oh, Rashad Ross.
Rashad Ross. That's right.
Yeah. But so I think basically that's the whole thing is to get Ty Montgomery the ball. You got to use a lot of those plays that you were talking about. You got to get him into bubble screens and do some screens and draws and get him into open space to let him go to work. And having him in the same backfield as Le'Veon Bell, to your point, is only going to help him and ultimately help the Jets to be maybe the best team in New York this year.
Oh, I don't think that's a far fetch. So anybody thinking it is, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're watching these days. But honestly, I do think Team Gangrene will be the best team in New York because of moves like this. It seems like the Jets have kind of done a complete 180 from what they were doing. When you're looking last year, it's like, they drafted a quarterback. Good for them. And that was about the extent of it because that quarterback went out on his first play in the season and threw a pick six to who? Your Detroit Lions. And
then turned right around and had a hell of a game and crushed us, but
but we'll ignore all that. So at the end of the day, though, I think the Jets might have something going here. So we'll definitely see how this ends up working out going into OTAs and training camp and preseason. But one guy I know that San Francisco is beating themselves up over at this point, and Washington's just feeling right as rain, is that Reuben Foster will be fined but not suspended by the NFL for all the sundry issues he's been having off field. So what can you update us on about this entire situation?
So what happened is, as you said, the NFL came down. They said they were going to fine Reuben Foster. A lot of this stemmed out of an arrest he had in November in Tampa, Florida, over allegations of domestic assault. So once that happened, he was released immediately by San Francisco. 3 days later, the Washington Redskins say, we'll go ahead and take you off waivers. The case ended up being dropped on January 3rd, and this isn't the first time he's had a run-in with the law, so he's had multiple times of getting arrested or having, allegations or anything like that. So this kind of makes sense for San Francisco to have let him go, but it just goes to show you that regardless of what's going on. Now, I don't know all the details of this situation, what he actually did, what didn't happen, but just goes to show you that you're still technically proven, you're innocent until proven guilty. So if you're the San Francisco 49ers, unless you definitely thought that this was going to be, you don't want this guy on your team anymore, you just don't want to deal with it anymore, go ahead, yeah, that's fine, drop him. But he was a first-round pick in 2017. So he's extremely young, extremely talented, and he's only getting fined for 2 game checks, not even get suspended. So you lost out on an uber talented player that you just spent a first round pick on 2 years ago. And now he's going to be playing for the Redskins and you got nothing to show for it.
Nope.
Just because you got trigger happy and you release him right away, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to ban you from facilities, but we're not going to release you. Just go ahead and get this figured out. will deal with it afterwards.
Because how many situations have we seen with players that have ended up in domestic disturbance issues, domestic assault issues, off the field issues at nightclubs? Most notably, we had one, I think it was just last night, between an Eagles player and a Washington Wizards player, where you have these off the field issues happen, but teams don't just go axing away at the people. They wait for things to kind of work themselves out, put the player on some type of probation or suspension, and just wait. I definitely think San Francisco pulled the trigger way too soon on this and should have waited to kind of see how everything was going to turn out, because now, like you said, they wasted that pick. That pick was for nothing now. And that was a first round pick at that. And a first round pick that was only 2 years ago. So they have nothing to show for that at this point, just because they got trigger happy. But you know who's sitting here fat, sassy, and happy? The Washington Redskins, because now they were able to get this high caliber defensive player for next to nothing, and now they don't have to worry about him missing time.
Yeah, I mean, the Redskins made out like bandits, man.
I mean, it doesn't work for my Eagles, but whatever.
Right. But yeah, you got to be pretty either kicking yourself or upset with yourself, however you want to look at it, if you are John Lynch and the 49ers, unless they know something that obviously we don't, because we're not in their front office.
Of course.
But this is not, like I said, it's not the first time he's had multiple run-ins with the law. Maybe they were just like, look, we're tired of your crap. Just go deal with it somewhere else.
And
maybe that's what they said.
Maybe that is the case, and maybe they just didn't want to deal with it anymore. But I feel like at that juncture, maybe you should have tried to make some moves to get something in return instead of just taking it on the chin.
Well, even if after this came out, no one's going to want him to trade for him if he's going to get suspended or anything like that. So they would have had to have waited until this all fell out anyway, which ended up being 2 months later.
Yep.
If you'd have waited 2 months, he gets cleared. Now you can trade him.
Or just hang on to him if you wanted to, because he's still a great player. Either way. Yeah,
I mean, Redskins just made out really well, and San Francisco, they're going to be trying to get another pass rusher in this year's draft.
Well, lucky for them, there are plenty of pass rushers to choose from in this one, so we'll definitely see how that works out. But shifting gears to some awesome early action in Major League Baseball, we're sitting here currently watching a little bit of the St. Louis Cardinals and Cincinnati Reds. Been a pretty exciting little game going on, but man, there's been a lot of stuff going on, including best of the week, and I can't believe you're going to say these words because of who it happened against, but say your words.
Yes! Chris Davis, you did it. You son of a bitch, you did it. So,
somehow.
So if anybody's a baseball fan, what I'm discussing, Baltimore Orioles Chris Davis signed a $161 million contract in 2016, was on fire. He was one of the best players, one of the best hitters in that time frame in Major League Baseball. Signs this contract. And going into last season, he had a bit of a hitting slump.
A bit?
A little bit. Going into this year, he was hitless, and I think it was
54?
40. No, that was coming into the season.
Oh, coming into the season.
It was like
54.
40 some games, 44, I think. 40 somewhere around the 40 range. But he hit historic levels in the last week.
Yeah, it was like 54 at bats, I think.
He went 0 for 54.
Yes.
He finally broke his historic hitless streak on Saturday afternoon against the struggling Boston Red Sox and Rick Porcello. You got a 2-run single off of Porcello in the first inning. And oh my goodness, it's over. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. It's over. Hopefully this man can get back to playing some baseball now and not have to worry about this black cloud just hanging over his head.
It hurts me so bad just because it did happen against my Red Sox. But hats off to you, Chris Davis, for finally getting a hit after 54 at-bats. It definitely sucks when you have to go through that, even though I think you're probably the one that did it more than anybody. But, hey, it is what it is.
That's my best of the week.
I'm just gonna say right now though, they did play today again, the Red Sox and Orioles. Red Sox did win 4-0, and guess what? Chris Davis was hitless today. So
hey, he broke the streak. That's all that matters. He could start a new one right now if he wants to.
well, he only struck out twice, so that makes me assume that he at least pop flied or something. So
He's been getting good contact on the baseball. Like the last game that I watched, which I think it was Thursday or Friday, one of the two. He was getting good contact on those pitches. It's not like he was swinging and missing every time.
No,
he was getting contact. It just would go. He would go right to. It would go right to the shortstop, right to the left fielder, right to the right fielder. He was hitting them. He had one that was almost a home run. It went right to the warning track.
Yeah, I did see that one.
So I mean, this was a couple days ago. So I mean, you knew eventually he was going to break it.
Eventually,
but congratulations to him. Your hit streak is over. Your hitless streak is over. And now you can create a new one. But that's my best of the week.
Oh, my goodness. Well, not so best of the week. New York Yankees starting pitcher Luis Severino shut down for 6 weeks after suffering a lat injury. Definitely a huge hit to the Yankees, who are trying to get back into the AL East race and are currently sitting second at 6-9 and still 5.5 games back of the Rays.
Yeah, this is tough. I mean, he's only 25, so he's going to hopefully get back to his solid ways. He's going to be shut down because of a grade 2 lat strain, which is separate from the shoulder injury that held him out since spring training. So it's going to be a little bit for him, but once he gets back and gets healthy, he's going to be desperately needed by that Yankees pitching staff if they want to challenge for the World Series. But it's a long season, so hopefully he can stay healthy once he does, in fact, come back off the DL.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what happens with that. Nothing personal, but I kind of hope he doesn't do well, but that's just me. I hope him speedy recovery. Good health, all that. Just don't play good baseball when you come back. So, but looking at the MLB as a whole, I'm kind of surprised to see how things have shooken out these first few weeks. But the best two teams in Major League Baseball are the Tampa Bay Rays and Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Isn't it weird to say?
You know what's funny? You know who the third best team is? The San Diego Padres.
Yeah, that's literally out of left field. Little shocked at that one, but yeah, the Mariners actually is the one big surprise here.
Oh, yes.
Just because the fact that they've actually broken an MLB record with a home run in 15 straight games to open the season. D. Gordon had a solo shot off of Kansas City a couple days ago, and this was on the 11th. So was that Wednesday? No, Thursday. That was Thursday. So they've been a really good surprise. They basically traded away Robinson Cano and Edwin Diaz. They brought in Edwin Encarnacion, Jay Bruce, Domingo Santana. But, I mean, they're off to a great start. They haven't made the postseason since 2001. So if they...
Definitely a while.
Yeah, if they can... It's a long season again, but if they can keep up this pace... But... Look who's right behind them in the West Division.
Oh, I know, the Houston Astros.
They're only 2 games back already.
Yeah, and they've won.
Struggled start.
Yeah, and they've won 8 straight.
Houston's no joke, man. Houston's no joke.
No, they really aren't.
They struggle early on, but they're probably the big surprise for me as far as on a positive note. Negative note, I mean, the Cubs are still kind of struggling. They're at 5-9 in the Central Division. The Rockies, who were supposed to contended last year, they made the wild card. They're 3-12.
4-12.
Oh, sorry, 4-12.
Yes, they won a game, sir. Okay.
They did win. Yeah.
Yes, they've won 1 in their last 10. Okay.
They've won 1 now, but I mean, Colorado, they're the worst team. They're tied for the worst team in baseball right now.
Yeah, and they
lost 8 straight.
Their run differential is -32. It is just atrocious.
So bad. They're averaging under 3 runs a game thus far.
Yes. And that's
rough.
It's really rough. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. But remember, this is still a long season. A lot can happen because, looking at these, we were talking about the LA Dodgers and how good they could be. And they started out the season 8-2. but they've lost 6 straight and they're now 8-8. So
that's why, I mean, you just got to weather the storm if you're the Dodgers or the Red Sox or any of the teams that think you have a chance to compete to get into the playoffs or make a run at the postseason. Yankees included in that mix. You just got to weather the storm and hope that your injuries stay minimal.
Definitely, and that's one thing Tampa Bay is going to have to avoid. Tampa Bay, I'm not as surprised with. Tampa Bay was a good team last year and was able to make it to the playoffs. So Tampa being 12-4 right now and leading the AL East by 5.5 games over the Yankees, I'm not too surprised by. I'm just surprised at the rest of the AL East and how bad they're playing.
Well, I mean, Tampa Bay, in their games that they played, out of the first 15 games they played, most of their games are against under 500 teams, which they're 8-3 in those games. So that's the bulk of their games. But over 500 teams are 3-1. So they're playing well against those top tier teams, or at least early into the season.
Right.
But we weren't totally surprised. I figured they'd be in contention with the wild card and things like that. Didn't expect such a hot start.
Definitely.
But yeah, they're playing well. It's good to see too. Hopefully they can keep that up and be the surprise team in the AL East.
Yeah, they definitely could. Their score differential is plus 38, so they're definitely getting some swinging bats going and getting able to get some scores. So we'll definitely see how all that shakes out. The MLB season, again, is a very long one, so a lot could happen, and we'll definitely bring you more updated news when we bring you next week's episode. So definitely make sure to check back and listen to us then. But we definitely do have only one more segment.
Ooh, just one more?
Just one more. I know, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, we got some stuff to do after tonight here. We got some stuff we're looking forward to.
Yeah, so that we'll talk about after this on the week ahead. But
what we're looking forward to here.
But because of that, we have a very short give or go this week. XFL adding a 3-point conversion. Do I read this right? Give or go, Craig.
Oh, you read it right, and I'm going to give on it. So this came out about a day or two ago that XFL Commissioner Oliver Luck revealed to Pro Football Talk one of the ideas they were looking at is having either a 1, 2, or a 3-point conversion in the new XFL when it launches in 2020. But even the 1-point conversion is not going to be traditional in the XFL. That conversion won't come on an extra point, but a play from the 2-yard line. A 2-point conversion will come from the 5-yard line.
Okay.
And this new proposed 3-point conversion will be from the 10. Huh. I don't know if that's going to be how they're going to end up doing it, but that's the proposed language right now. And he said that the league considered moving it to the 15, but they settled at the 10. So they were going to do it at the 15-yard line for a 3-point conversion. So I know this is usually here's my opinion, then we move on to the next one.
Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts on this because this is intriguing to me.
This is very intriguing. And that's the thing I look at is that when we saw what the AAF did with their extra point system, having no extra point, you had to go for 2. And then, of course, their own kickoff, their onside kick variation was interesting enough as well. So for the XFL to try and throw out innovative ideas, and considering what they were able to innovate way back in 2001, that the NFL actually adopted in certain aspects.
Players mic'd up constantly.
The overhead camera.
The overhead camera.
Yes.
Hopefully they don't bring back the coin toss that they had.
Oh, yes, that. or how they did their kickoffs.
In the very first game of the season,
we had
a player got injured on the coin toss.
Yeah, I don't know how you get injured on the coin toss, but ask the XFL and they'll show you how.
It's a scrum for the kickoff.
That's all it is.
My God.
But the big thing, though, is that this is very intriguing. We know Vince McMahon is trying to take a much more realistic and serious approach to this disambiguation of the XFL. So that have a 3-point conversion, I find that very, very intriguing. The only downside I see is that, you do see that could be a 9-point swing. It could be very, very exciting, but from what we've seen in the AAF, what we've seen in the XFL, are you kind of devaluing kickers at this point?
Well, I think that's just it's a nature of the evolution of the game, if you ask me that. Because I think it's going to happen no matter what, because you want to try to eliminate injuries and concussions as much as possible.
Well, definitely.
So I wouldn't be surprised if the XFL ends up taking the AAF approach with kickoffs and onside kicks if they haven't already established that.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do it and that ends up getting into the NFL. But I give them credit for being creative. I mean, they did it in 2001. They're doing it now. I give them 10 points. 10 points for Gryffindor in creativity. All right, moving on. Last one. Dana White. According to Dana White, the Daniel Cormier Brock Lesnar fight, quote, isn't even in the works. Give her a go.
Oh, I'm definitely going to give on this one. Given how I've seen Lesnar's career go recently, I find this very interesting just because of how everything with the WWE and Brock Lesnar worked out recently. When Brock Lesnar re-signed his deal with WWE a little over a year ago, it was with the intention that he was going to step away after Mania for a UFC fight. Now we are sitting here after WrestleMania 35. Lesnar lost the title in the hot opener, which really wasn't that hot, of WrestleMania. And the whole angle of that match and why it was so early was literally on the premise that, quote, Brock Lesnar needed to fly to Las Vegas to talk about more important matters, end quote. Now, with that automatically gives the idea that this is talks with UFC, trying to get a fight nailed down. Now, there's already a lot of speculation that Brock Lesnar was going to have a fight possibly with John Jones, given that Brock Lesnar had recently shown up to a UFC event and ended up in a face-off in the middle of the octagon after John Jones won his fight. So that has been the expectation. Now we're sitting here. They're not even talking about John Jones anymore, not even talking about the possibility of that fight happening. And you're now looking down the fight, mainly just because of, what happened with John Jones and everything with outside of the octagon that he's been having when it comes to PEDs and things like that. But the big thing I look at is that you're trying to give this idea that Brock Lesnar is trying to get ready for this fight. He's going to have a fight. He's going to have a fight in UFC. And you have the owner of UFC, the UFC president, Dana White, come out and said, we're not even looking at that right now. Like, we're not even doing that. It's right now suspected that Daniel Cormier is going to face former UFC heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic. So where does that leave Brock Lesnar? What is Brock Lesnar running away from WWE for? Are you just trying to negotiate something and get that fight in before the contract ends and you don't get that? Are you trying to use it as an out to make sure UFC follows through on their end? Like, what is going on? Because at the end of the day, what you're going to see happen is that Brock Lesnar is going to want to get paid, so he's going to end up revolving all the way back around to coming to WWE because Vince McMahon is more than willing to throw millions at Brock Lesnar to be a part-timer in WWE.
It's a lot of jockeying, I think, at this point for Lesnar because he wants to try to get the best of both worlds, which I can't really blame him for that.
Well, no.
But, I mean, yeah, to your point, I mean, they're not even talking about a fight with him. So I think part of the reason was from a WrestleMania standpoint, they knew it wasn't going to be a good match anyway.
Yeah.
So why not just have him do the first fight, make an excuse that he's got to go to Vegas and do this UFC thing, and that way he can just drop the belt real quick and you can celebrate Seth Rollins, who should have been the champion all along. But again, that's just a different story.
Oh, it definitely, I don't know, it could play out so many different ways. The thing is that if you don't see an announcement of a fight within the next month or two, I have a feeling you're going to see Lesnar saying that he is again retiring from MMA and he's going to end up back in WWE.
I would have really loved to see John Jones beat the crap out of him, though.
Oh, that would have been wonderful, but John Jones would have had to not be taking all the turning a ball, or wherever the hell he was taking.
Turning a ball?
Turning a ball. So, John Jones has to get off the dope no matter how you look at it. So for that fight to happen, John Jones has to get his life together. I can't believe we'd be saying that between Brock Lesnar and John Jones.
Yikes.
But at the end of the day, Lesnar is now sitting here without a fight. And they're really still trying to make, I guess, him and Cormier maybe have a fight. But UFC Dana White's he's not even looking at it right now. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this all works out. And we'll definitely update you on it once we get to that point and have something to actually report. But that has been our Give or Go segment here on Final Score. And sadly, we are coming down to the very end of this episode, episode 10, historic episode for us.
Double-digit episodes in the books.
That's right. I now got to use more than two hands to count how many episodes we're on. So, looking at the week ahead, what are you going to be watching this week?
Well, right this second, as we're about to wrap up, we've got two NHL playoff games about to get started here. Tampa and their game, and then also Winnipeg and St. Louis. So I'm looking forward to watching more playoff action. And then, of course, we're prepping for our NFL draft show next weekend.
Yeah, that's right. Come next week, we will be having our NFL draft show, giving you a preview of some of the early rounds of the NFL draft coming up before it happens here in 2 weeks. So definitely make sure that you catch episode 11. It'll be our very special NFL Draft Edition show. That way we can bring you all of our latest prognostications, and maybe we'll get a few right here and there. So definitely make sure you check that out next week. But
we're looking for. I think we're going to end up mocking the first 2 rounds.
Yes,
and then basically that's going to be it, because I mean it's really tough to predict after 2 rounds.
And that we have day jobs, so we can't sit down and predict that far out. Yeah, that's 64 picks already. So we're gonna mock out the first 2, and we'll take a general look at some of the seeding rounds
need to be filled for the teams.
Yeah, and look at where they might try to look for a little bit of help.
Yep.
But one other thing I know I'm definitely going to be checking out tonight.
Winter is here.
Winter is here. Game of Thrones Season 8 will be debuting at 9 p.m. on HBO. I cannot wait. I literally ran all the seasons of Game of Thrones in preparation. And you know what's funny about it? I started it about 70 or so days out, which they said gives you, enough time to be able to watch 1 episode a night. Now, granted my, busy life, and I'm sure yours as well, we missed a few and all that. I know I did. But it's crazy. I finished all of it about 3 weeks ago. So
Jesus, dude.
I have been rerunning episodes again from season 7 mainly to try and get ready for this, because I am more than excited for this to finally drop, because this is going to be the final season.
Yeah.
The
final season.
So excited. But
exciting.
But alas, though, we have to end this episode to be able to go do that. So we thank you, fans, for joining us for our very special our episode 10 of Final Score. Next week, we'll bring you episode 11, our NFL draft preview. But definitely make sure that you keep up to date on all things happening with Final Score by following us on social media, on Facebook at /PCN Final Score, on Twitter at PCN Final Score. And of course, you can hop over and download all of our episodes on Podbean at PCNFinalScore.podbean.com. And of course, you can listen to us on some of the major streaming services, including Spotify, Google Play Music, and iTunes. Just go on and search keyword Final Score, one word, and make sure to go listen to all of our greatest and latest episodes. And go hit that subscribe button so you can get notifications on all of our most recent episodes. Craig, thank you so much for joining us yet again. How'd you enjoy it, bud?
Oh, it's been a great episode. We always have a lot of fun. So looking forward to next week and the mock draft episode. And it's a lot of work. It's going to be a lot of fun, though. Hopefully we can get a good amount of our picks right.
Hopefully. We'll definitely see how that works out. But to make sure we do, you have to join us next week. But until then, I'm Chris. This is Craig. And this has been Podcast City Network's first sportscast, Final Score. Have a great night. Podcast City Network.